All right, guys, welcome back to another video. So one of the biggest first-party releases this year for Xbox has been Forza Motorsport, and it's getting a huge update here coming on November 14th with new content as well as a bunch of bug fixes. So let's go through it, because if you're a fan of this game, if you've been playing it since it's come out, it's going to be pretty exciting. Lots of stuff to look forward to. So first of all, we have here the game director, Andy Bedoin, saying that the entire motorsport engineering team right now focus on delivering bug fixes and quality of life updates, adding here that every day we've got new fixes getting into the game, and we as a motorsport leadership team will meet for an hour or two every day and look at the bugs that we've had reported and decide risk versus reward, which ones are the most important to our community, which ones are going to give the biggest benefit to our players, and deciding which one of those get into the next release. They have an army of testers, and we can be expecting some massive improvements coming from this next update. You can see here there is a long list of stuff that they have. I'm not going to read through everything, but obviously game stability improvements, that's always very, very important. They fixed an issue where players could view and unlock tunes and vinyls. They fixed an issue causing black paint shade to show up as gray instead of black. You know what? I will read through it all. I'm going to finish going through this list. They fixed an issue where only the inner barrel on factory rims is paintable. They fixed a PC issue, which I think is huge here. Fixed it requiring shaders to recompile with every game restart on an AMD chipset, which obviously would be super annoying every time you're starting up this game. They have to recompile everything, probably slows down the actual loading and the launching of the game. They also have another PC fixture where the game crashes if headphones are plugged into the front panel. Very odd. Fixes for multiplayer, group matchmaking, party management, and invites and joins. Now, there's some more stuff here. Fixes to ensure liveries show up more consistently in multiplayer. Fixes to address prolonged intermission, launch, and countdown in multiplayer races. Fixes for automatic wet tire selection and fuel estimation logic. Adjusted multiplayer event schedule for more variation in event start times. Resolved an exploit related to changing car tune mid-race. Fixes to replays not playing, including cars not moving or floating. And then for the Thrustmaster T248 LED screen, it now displays race position and information. I'll be honest, from what I've played of Forza Motorsport, I've played a decent amount for somebody who's never really been that much into the simulation racing games. I like the arcade, I like the Horizons, I like Crew Motorfest, I like kart racing games. But I actually have really enjoyed what I've played so far of Forza Motorsport. I haven't really experienced any major issues with this game. Very little bugs. There's really been no crashes. The stability for me has been pretty much perfect. And every time I'm going through a race in Forza Motorsport, I'm in awe of how good the game looks on the Xbox Series X. That's what I'm playing it mostly on a big screen TV. So a game is phenomenal in terms of its feel and in terms of its graphics. And I really haven't seen any of these fixes or any of these game bugs, but obviously people are experiencing them, and now they're all going to be fixed. Now, in terms of new content, there will be new tracks here. So there's going to be a new track, Yas Marina Circuit, that will be added to the game. And they say it has been rebuilt with its up-to-date race season layout and features a more flowing hairpin for better racing and overtaking opportunities. There will also be a new Builders Cup tours, the Prestige Tour and the Italian Open Tour. And you will be awarded with a 2011 Lamborghini Sesto Elemento for completing the tour. And obviously the tour offerings and series, they go throughout the month and then they are changed up. They're available for a limited of time. So if you want that reward, go play those tours to get that car. And then there will also be a bunch of new cars here that will be in the spotlight cars in the showroom that give you a 30% discount. There's a large list here. Some starting releasing November 16th, and then others releasing in December on December 7th. So make sure to go check the list to see if there's anything else that you want there. But this is a big update, and this is kind of what's going to be happening with this game. It is a games as a service. They're going to continuously bring new content and new cars and new updates and fixes to improve, I would say, one of the best racing games out there right now, and one of the best looking games, a showcase. So a very strong release here that is going to continue to get better with Forza Motorsport. All right, let's jump over here. Let's talk about something that I found very interesting when this happened at the beginning of October, and was Gotham Knights. Gotham Knights dropped into Xbox Game Pass. We know that Gotham Knights had a terrible reception at launch. It was that game last year when it did come out that scared a lot of people into thinking that the consoles were going to be 30 FPS machines going forward for these big major AAA games. And that clearly has not been the case. Yes, of course, there are some 30 FPS games where there is no performance mode, but the Series X and the PS5 generally, when games do release, have a 60 frames per second performance mode. So the doom and gloom for this release at 30 FPS never really came to fruition, but it definitely hurt the launch of Gotham Knights. And there was a lot of bad reviews for this game as well. So a lot of people just didn't end up picking it up and playing it, even though I would say there was a decent amount of hype surrounding it. So fast forward a year later, it drops into Xbox Game Pass, and we see a massive surge of people checking out a game that you thought was probably dead. This was from October 10th, and this was the week that dropped into Xbox Game Pass. The player engagement went from 0.3% of Xbox users a week prior to 6% of all Xbox Series players playing Gotham Knights, which is a massive jump, something that obviously WB, just publishers and developers in general, will look at as a solution to try to revitalize, get more people to check out a game that did not live up to expectations. We see this all the time. I mean, subscription services are a great way to put in a game nobody really knew about, no one was thinking about, and then have millions of people know about it, think about it, and check it out. And even if it's a popular game that was essentially dead, it can really help it come back. So it did that with Xbox Game Pass. Now we fast forward a little bit more, and Gotham Knights also came out on PlayStation Plus. And what you can see here is that a few weeks after it came into Game Pass, the engagement fell slightly down here to 2%, where it is currently right now. And then it released into PlayStation Plus a few weeks after it came out on Xbox Game Pass. And you saw engagement as well from PlayStation Plus spike interest in PS users to about 3%, whereas right now it is around 2%. So you see two subscription services getting a game that nobody was talking about or caring about, over time leveling out to having essentially the same amount of user engagement. There is another thing here to note. Obviously, Game Pass overall got a much bigger initial engagement, going all the way up to just over 6%, where as PlayStation, like I said, only hit about 3%. So there is that I think devs and publishers will look at too. Kind of that initial bout of excitement that gamers have when a game gets announced or drops into a service seems stronger here with Xbox Game Pass, but at the same time, it did fall off, probably because there's been a lot of big releases coming into Game Pass after the release of Gotham Knights. You had also a huge game like Forza Motorsport, a first-party game that people attention probably went over to. But I think overall, this is another example of the power of these subscription services, the power of having millions of subscribers instantly being able to check out a game. And I think this is going to lead to just a lot more big third-party games putting their games into sub-services a year after, 6 months after, at any point after, when they want to revitalize the importance or want to revitalize the excitement of their game. So I thought that was pretty cool. So I just wanted to talk about that, and we'll see. I mean, a lot of people that I've talked to about Gotham Knights say it's not as bad as a lot of the reviewers said, and in the 30 FPS is probably something that really did hurt its initial launch. Now, we know layoffs are huge in the industry right now. Tons of people getting laid off. We have some other big layoffs. Ubisoft is laying off 124 employees, and they're being cut at its Canadian studio and with its global IT team. So this is exactly what's happening here. It says, over the past few months, every team within Ubisoft has been exploring ways to streamline our operations and enhance our collective efficiency so that we are better positioned for success in the long term. In this context, today we announced that we are reorganizing our Canadian studios, general and administrative functions, and reducing headcount in Hybrid, our VFX studio based in Montreal, and in our global IT team, which impacts 124 positions overall. So, I mean, this is more cuts happening across the industry, and it's been a very interesting time because we've seen PlayStation have huge hits recently. See Ubisoft, you see Embracer Group selling stuff off, and who knows what's going to be happening with them in the future. Are there more studios they're going to try to get rid of? I feel like there is. It's just been a wild time of companies cutting back, and a big reason, of course, is everything that we've seen and taught and heard about, seen in leaked documents. The development cost, the cost of creating these games is becoming higher and higher. And it's becoming harder and harder for these companies to actually sustain sustain the development of these games to make enough profit. They're all have to answer to their shareholders, and the margins are slim. We saw specifically with PlayStation how their margins are very slim right now with the PS5. Maybe they're recording record sales, but their operating profit is the lowest it's been since fiscal year 2019. So there's going to be a lot more changes happening. On the other side of things, we see Xbox here with Machine Games and expanding out into another studio. So I wonder if they have been able to find a way to kind of beat the current cuts that are happening. I mean, Xbox, Microsoft have obviously had their cuts, but the fact that they're expanding while everybody else is cutting is an interesting thing that is happening. Now let's jump over here. We know Nintendo Switch is coming out soon. Nintendo Switch 2 is coming out soon. We've seen a lot of rumors and a lot of people who seemed like they were telling the truth. And now we're getting some direct information from Nintendo on all of the rumors we've seen about the Switch 2, about them showing it off, all of these types of things. And clearly somebody has been lying. Either it's Nintendo or it's the leakers. But this comes from the Nintendo president, Shintaro Furukawa, talking about that they're denying that they briefed developers on plans for the Nintendo Switch successor, calling recent media reports untrue. Now, speaking with Japanese publication Mainichi, Furukawa specifically says that he denied both reports during a private earnings call on Tuesday, calling them inaccurate. So apparently nobody's actually seen the Nintendo Switch 2. They have no idea what's coming. Developers don't know what's coming unless he's lying, or the developers are lying, or the people who said that they heard about these leaks about the Switch 2 and that they were showing it to developers behind closed door. I believe there was some reports at Gamescom or something that they were doing that. Those all seemingly, according to Nintendo, did not happen. Now, there was also patents. If you saw, we talked about this on a previous video. There was like a Nintendo DS style patent, a dual screen Nintendo platform patent that was filed. And here is what he says about that. He says, "We are aware that patent information is published upon application. However, this does not necessarily mean that it will be featured in future products." And this isn't surprising. Companies file patents all the time. If you remember with the first Nintendo Switch, they did have a patent. There was like that weird shaped controller that everybody thought was definitely going to be the Nintendo Switch, thinking that the controller was literally an entire screen. And then somebody actually did a 3D printed version of it, which pushed further the rumors and the speculation. And that actually never came to fruition, obviously, with the current Nintendo Switch that is out. And the Switch is just still doing just insane. Like, it's crazy how well it's still doing. Maybe Nintendo is not in any rush whatsoever to release a Nintendo Switch 2. They just cleared 132 million units sold, which is probably going to end up being their best-selling console of all time, beating the Nintendo DS. The Nintendo DS sold 154 million, so the Switch will probably end up selling another 21 million units, and there'll be more price cuts. Even when the Switch 2 comes out, the current Nintendo Switch will still sell. So it's just absolutely crazy. And maybe we'll end up outselling the PlayStation 2 as well at 155 million, making it the best-selling console of all time. So maybe they're just not in any rush. The only thing I think that would push them to release this thing sooner rather than later are developers pressuring them. They want to put their games on the platform, but they just can't with the Nintendo Switch. And maybe Nintendo is thinking they don't want to lose a huge consumer base from third party by keeping with the current hardware. But we will see. I still think it's going to come out in 2024. I feel like they just don't want anything leaked. They don't want people spreading false information, but I still think it's going to be a quick announcement and then release sometime in 2024. Now, when it comes to Microsoft and Epic Games, they are being sued right now from parents who believe that they are creating a game addiction. So this is a lawsuit that was filed on October 30th, and it states that Microsoft, Epic Games, Activision Blizzard, EA, and others use patented designs, algorithms, and marketing containing addictive features and technology. Now, let's be honest here. All of these companies definitely do things to make sure that you are engaged in their video game. They want to keep you playing their games for as long as possible, so you're not going over to the competitor. Now, are these specifically addictive features that are predatory to prey on young kids? I mean, maybe you could look at it like that, but if it's a young kid who's getting addicted to video games and you're just letting it happen, I would say it probably falls further on the parent more so than the company itself. Now, here's specifically what they say. They say these designs and addictive features, they say, utilize data collection of minors, predatory monetization schemes, and feedback loops to keep players more engaged. And this person filing it is Casey Dunn. And she says, we never imagined when our son started playing video games that he would become so addicted that his education would severely suffer, he would lose all interest in spending time with his friends, and his physical and mental health would be at risk. These video game companies have targeted and taken advantage of kids, prioritizing their profit over all else. As a mom, I knew I had to do something to ensure they don't get away with destroying the well-being and futures of our children. And I find this kind of crazy, kind of hilarious that that's the statement that's made, because in my opinion, if you don't want your kids playing video games, if they're playing too much, it's your job as a parent to go in there and make sure they're not playing anymore. I don't want to blindly defend these major big corporations, companies, because they've all done scummy things. I mean, you think about the EA loot boxes with the Battlefront 2 and how big of an issue that was. That is definitely predatory when it comes to that stuff. And microtransactions, I've always thought in ways can be addictive and ways can be predatory. However, there are many games that have very fun gameplay loops that are addictive but aren't predatory to the extent that they are ruining kids' lives. And if they are, it's up to the parent to step in there and make sure their kids are not playing anymore or only playing a certain amount of time. They also hear the Dunn family is suing for monetary recovery, changing how games are designed, and offered an additional mental health resource for families faced with trying to treat young children addicted to gaming. Now, the attorney says gaming addiction is a serious, life-altering disorder that is stealing children's lives and disrupting families across the country. Parents like me often mistakenly think it is a failure on their part when their child becomes addicted, but through this litigation, we hope to shine a light on these companies' reprehensible actions, deceit, and manipulation of our children for their own financial gain. So we'll see what happens here. I'll see if somehow Microsoft loses in court against this. I don't see how they will. I'm trying to think of some very predatory things that they've put into their first party games. And the only thing that maybe could be looked at as bad is when they put it their microtransactions and they increase prices to an exorbitant amount. There was an issue here with Halo recently where they increased their microtransactions, and then people play those and buy those things nonstop and they can't control themselves. I still don't think it's illegal. I don't think it's predatory because you know exactly what you're buying with these microtransactions now. Where it was predatory was years ago with the loot boxes, where you had no idea what you were getting. You would just spend money to gamble. And that's where I think there was an issue. But a lot of games out there, they don't do that anymore. You know what you're getting when you are buying it. And I can't think of the loot boxes in games like Halo and stuff that would be considered very predatory. But we'll see. I mean, it feels like somebody out there is just trying to make a little bit of money. Now, this was an interesting topic, and this has to do with a live action Zelda movie. Not just that a live action Zelda movie is getting created, it is a live action Zelda movie where it is co-financed by Nintendo and Sony Pictures Entertainment, with more than 50% financed by Sony. It says, by producing visual contents of Nintendo IP by itself, Nintendo is creating new opportunities to have people from around the world to access the world of entertainment, which Nintendo has built through different means apart from its dedicated games consoles. And what is very interesting about this is they're working with a Virad who obviously has worked on many big movies previously in the MCU and stuff like that. So this could be a pretty cool movie when it does come out. I love Zelda. I will definitely be checking it out. But besides how the movie's going to end up, how people are going to like it or dislike it, and the actors and all that stuff that they're going to choose to play the characters, what else is extremely interesting is that it's Sony partnering with Nintendo, who you could say probably are rivals in Japan. They're coming together and they're producing a movie. And to me, the first thing I thought about when I saw this article was this is continuation of Sony's pivot. Stuff like this, if they are going to be moving away from trying to make games as a service, where we've seen their complaints and the backlash and the fallout from Sony executives being let go, if they know they can't compete with Xbox anymore in terms of getting content, in terms of games into the subscription service at the same rates, having first party games drop all the time into the service, being able to compete on the mobile side now with Xbox owning Activision Blizzard and all the IPs there, this is the pivot I've been thinking that they are going to continue to move towards, which is bringing in movies, TV shows, and adding that type of content to attract more consumers to the PlayStation platform, a broader base of consumers where somebody out there may not play video games as much as they watch movies and as much as they watch TV shows, but they would know if they were to sign up to PlayStation Plus, they're going to get access to a whole suite of different type of content, games, movies, and TV shows. And I think that will help them grow if they're able to attract that crowd of people to sign up into their ecosystem and help them make more money to be able to support the high development costs for their first party games. And we'll see what happens with this movie. It may never come anywhere near a PlayStation subscription service because they are as well here working with Nintendo. Nintendo is very particular in how they release and put out their content, but I can see this being something that helps sell PlayStation Plus, helps sell PlayStation items, which is crazy to think about. We never thought we would see all of these companies have content on each other's platforms or working with each other, but it really could end up being like that. And we know with the Bravia app being put on to PlayStation with the Sony's Pictures app, they've given discounts for Sony Pictures movies and TV shows if you are a subscriber to PlayStation Plus. In my mind, I see it all kind of coming together. And the next coming years will be PlayStation moving towards branding itself as that entertainment suite for everything that you want. But who knows? Maybe I'll be completely wrong on that. And they will continue to try to do games as a service, and they will continue to try to get more big acquisitions in the gaming industry. But I'm going to end the video there, guys. If you did enjoy this video, hit that thumbs up. If you are new here, hit that subscribe, and I will catch you guys in the next video.
We'll be right back.